It's actually rare to see Doc disagree with the call, usually very supportive of the officials.
Damian Lillard comes up short after the Lillard miss. Morris and Beverly reacting.
Damian Lillard is after his time in the NBA and just seems to be a little bothered by the current state of the league. And when I say after his time, I'm not referring to his play style. Y'all know a point guard who can facilitate and score at a high level, perimeter buckets, all that is definitely fit for today's game. Instead, I'm talking about something called team loyalty. You know, treating the place that drafted you like home. I wanted to start the video off just by saying that because even though it's pretty obvious, the values which we fans of the NBA know Dame to have for sure play a role in his personal opinions on his fellow players in the league, especially after the comments made by him and towards him last weekend. But let me go ahead and briefly explain the events which have led me to make this video in the first place. So yeah, if you've been keeping up with action in the NBA bubble recently at all, you already know, man, the Clippers played a close game with the Blazers this past weekend without key pieces in Kawhi and Beverly. However, they were still able to pull off a W, partly because of these two very uncharacteristic missed free throws by Mr. Dame Dollar, which then led to some taunting by Beverly and Marcus Morris. Dan gets asked about it in a post-game interview, and he basically speaks on how he sunned both Beverly and Paul George previously in the playoffs. But the real toxicity doesn't show itself until Bleacher Report posts about it on IG, and PG and Beverly proceed to clown Dame some more, where Dame responds with this spicy quote we've all seen by now: "Keep running from the grind, switching teams, y'all boys is chumps." Pretty bold and direct thing to say, and yes, even though Dame's opinion on free agency and super teams are no secret at all, listen, it's the tone in his statement. Even though he didn't verbally say it, it just comes off more condescending and belittling than the usual, "Oh, I got no issue with it, but it's just not for me." Which is why I'm coming y'all today with this video looking at how much Dame's slick comment may have just revealed about his real feelings about the league today, his fellow star players, and I go as far to say it's his biggest motivation. But before I get too far, if you're new, man, subscribe. If you think Dame is the best point guard in the league right now that's healthy, then go ahead and sub up, man. I'm dropping quality hoops content twice a week, and I'm just trying to make some noise on the channel. Like the sub too, I'd appreciate it. But back to this NBA beef. Like I sort of mentioned earlier, if you look back at Dame's comments on high-profile players changing teams in past years, he's always kept it pretty conservative. Just look at this interview clip on the Joe Budden podcast.
Back to what you were saying, I don't have a problem with people clicking up. All I'm saying is that's what I'm not going to do. Why, though? Because that ain't what I come from.
What if they want to click up?
He verbatim claims to have no issue with it and that it's just something he would never do. But come on, let's be real. And I like Dame. He's top 3 of my most respected NBA athletes. But the professional, ethical, politically correct response jig is up after his comments on PG and Beverly. He said it himself, they are chumps to him to a certain degree as NBA players, and he probably views them a little lesser than he does a loyal star like John Wall, even though he hasn't really made much noise ever since his injury. But he probably respects him more just off the fact that other stars seem to be taking the easy way out regarding winning an NBA championship. And I don't say the jig is up as a knock on Dame, because if anyone can speak on team loyalty within the NBA and still finding some way to win, it is Damian Lillard. But like I said, him acting like he has no issue with it is some good cap, great cap, but it really opens your eyes to how he may really feel about some other athletes in the league, because PG and Beverly are far from being the only players to switch teams to escape a terrible situation. You can name several others like Cousins to the Lakers, so many, Westbrook to Houston, KD and Kyrie to the Nets, or even KD to Golden State, and of course Kawhi and PG to the Clippers. Maybe even Kemba to the Celtics, even though his situation in particular was as stagnant and just awful as it gets. Really, a lot of previous situations of the players I just mentioned were also terrible if you want any real title hopes, and I'm in favor of nearly all the moves besides KD to Golden State. But this isn't about how I view him, y'all. It's about how Dame probably sees it. And I mean, y'all may be thinking I'm reaching, but this is what you have to understand about Dame. Yes, we know him to have had a tough upbringing, barely ranked out of high school, went to a mid-major college. I mean, odds been against dude basically his whole life. So when Dame says the super team concept is not for him or just where he comes from, He's telling the truth and probably a chip on his shoulder. Just look at this clip from an interview with Stephen A. Smith on the idea of ever leaving the Blazers.
You've never thought about moving on like so many of these other marquee players have talked about moving on from their respective teams to sort of join one another. Why haven't you ever done that or thought about doing that?
I mean, for me, I love what my situation is. You know, I don't take my position for granted. I know that, you know, this is the organization that drafted me. They've always done right by me, and just the investment into the community that I play for, you know, the relationships that I've built, and you know, what we have, the environment that we've created. For me, just my teammates, the relationships, my coaches, our training staff, like.
Just the way he talks about Portland, man, the loyalty is just incredible for a team that, yes, has done a decent job at providing him an opportunity to compete year after year. But at the end of the day, I don't care if you're a Blazers fan, man. There are no doubt better situations Dame could have taken up on, as I'd be surprised if any of the 30 teams in the NBA would decline Dame if he ever wanted to sign with them. But he would never do that, ring chase, making him different from a ton of his fellow stars. And this commitment to himself and poor view towards super teams has got to be a major motivation for him to do the impossible, basically. Win on the team you were drafted on as the best player without any major recruitments or signings. But yeah, this video is not too lengthy. My point is pretty direct. Dame just has less respect for certain star players and doesn't feel the same way about those on super teams in comparison to those who are not. But no matter what he may claim in interviews, it was just evident in that "you boys is chumps" comment last weekend. But if for some reason you still don't agree with me on this, comment below why. But let me speak on this a little bit more and just make my reasoning make more sense. Look at Devin Booker, an incredible young player, clearly loyal to the Suns despite the masses of fans, media, and even players that tell him to go elsewhere because his team is making him underrated. They can't seem to win without him playing his absolute best. With Booker's great start in the regular season this year, which gave the Suns an early push that they haven't seen in a while, he somehow still did not make the All-Star game up front. Not to mention how well he played in the NBA bubble going 8-0. But back to the All-Star situation, man. Dame had to be injured and unable to play for Booker to gain a deserving position. And call me crazy, but come on, I know y'all seen Dame perform on All-Star Weekend. You know, he still wasn't moving a ton, but he still could have played some minutes. And I have no doubt in reality that he probably just felt for Booker, as he's been in the same position after being snubbed from the All-Star game several times in the past due to his team record and the tough Western Conference. Honestly, Dame might respect Booker more than he does PG and some other quote-unquote ring chasers. It doesn't sound that insane of a take to me, especially after I broke it down to y'all, honestly. But yeah, I'm about to conclude this video. No matter if you agree with me on this or not, I think we can all agree that Dame has this chip on his shoulder to prove what can be done on the team you're loyal to as a star in the NBA. To prove that you can win a chip without the current league's trend of super teams joining up to win a ring. All that, if you just improve yourself each day on your Mamba mentality type stuff. Rest in peace to Kobe. But yeah, this video is being recorded after Dame's 51 and 61 point outburst versus the 76ers and the Mavs. Like, wow, it's going to be fun watching the Blazers if they can just maintain the 8th seed and Dame brings the same effort versus the Lakers. No cap. But that's it for me, man. I most definitely appreciate y'all watching. So if you're new, like, hit up, share, all of that, and I'm out.